Trump dodged the draft 3 times with a phony doctor's note, bone spurs. He called your children in uniform suckers and losers. And as the military were unloading caskets over the weekend, he wore a baseball hat and didn't bow his head once. And he promises more fatalities as we fight a war against an enemy who is not a threat to any American citizen. But that's not what this story's about. This story's about a media company that continues to lie to Americans about Trump to protect him with these lies while national unity crumbles and we slide closer to a depression and possibly a world war. Here's the latest from Fox.
All right, Adam, thank you very much. Before we move on, we want to acknowledge a mistake made earlier on our program. During our coverage of yesterday's dignified transfer, we inadvertently aired video from an older dignified transfer instead of the ceremony that took place yesterday. We deeply regret the error and extend our respect and condolences to the service members' families.
Okay, now what he said is a lie, but what he didn't say is what happened. It's called dignified transfer, which is Orwellian speak for when politicians, left or right, fuck up and get soldiers killed. The men and women killed in this war with Iran, a war with very questionable origins, has already killed 7 U.S. servicemen as well as 169-year-old primary school children that we bombed in the very first day. But the scene at Dover Air Force Base while these soldiers' caskets were being taken off the plane is so consistent with what Trump is, as well as what Fox presents. Here's what happened Saturday. As you can see, as the bodies roll by Trump, this human asswipe is wearing a baseball hat. A hat with USA, in case you were confused as to where you live. Oh, by the way, you can buy it online. And as you can imagine, it pissed people off. Not only the families of these kids who died in this unnecessary war, and not only the families of all service members, and not only the military itself, but the entire nation saw this petulant 5-year-old who has zero respect for our military and the families, and who acts like a 12-year-old at a NASCAR event.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
But actually, if you were watching Fox News, you didn't see this sign of ultimate disrespect for a fallen soldier. You instead saw this.
Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary Lady Usha Vance attending a dignified transfer to honor the final homecoming of the 6 U.S. service members killed in Kuwait. The solemn ritual returns the remains of troops killed in action. It is considered one of the most somber duties of a commander-in-chief. President Trump promising the nation that they will all be remembered as heroes.
Now, this is not a mistake. I know this because I've done this shit for 35 years. The video you just saw was from 4 months ago with Trump not wearing a MAGA hat, and it's practically impossible to mix these up. The video you just saw was archived, meaning you have to look it up by the date and bring it through a chain of people who have all had to make the same mistake. Or maybe a phone call was made from the White House asking or telling Fox to not use that tape after families criticized Trump's obvious disrespect. But if you notice, Fox chose not to show the real video, and they won't because they've been caught in another lie. And veterans, their families, and just regular Americans are pissed.
Donald Trump greeted our heroes arriving from Kuwait today, our 6 fallen heroes, and he couldn't be troubled to dress like a normal human being. Donald Trump greeted them wearing a white baseball hat like some kind of bro from the frat. Check this out. I'm going to show you a zoom in a second. Get ready for it. There he is. Let's see the zoom. Here's our frat bro. Again. Here he is again. And here's the close-up in case there was any question. What is wrong with this guy? My mom's generation, close to his age, knew damn well about baseball. She used to tell me, baseball hats. Gentleman doesn't wear a baseball hat inside. It's a casual thing. At a funeral, which is basically what this is, at a funeral, he's wearing why didn't he wear it backwards? And go, dude, welcome to Dover. I'm really serious, guys. There is something wrong with this man. There's something wrong with his overall morality and ethics. There's something wrong with the way he treats our troops. These are our 6 freaking dead heroes.
So how did other presidents handle respecting men and women who have died while in uniform? Here's a great CBS report from 10 years ago.
Meanwhile, as most Americans were sleeping, an extraordinary moment in history was playing out in the dark of night. With no fanfare, telling only a small group of reporters, President Obama left the White House just before midnight and boarded Marine One. After a 40-minute flight, he landed at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. A C-17 transport plane had just arrived there, bearing the remains of 18 Americans killed this week in Afghanistan. After meeting privately with their families, the president and other dignitaries boarded the plane to welcome the fallen heroes home and join a chaplain in a brief prayer. Then the president and his group left the plane and stood at attention, saluting as the flag-draped transfer cases were removed, the solemnity of the moment clearly visible on the face of the commander-in-chief. This is the first time a president has participated in what is officially called a dignified transfer since the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan began. President George W. Bush said he preferred to meet with grieving families in private. Media coverage of returning remains was banned during his father's administration after some networks showed a split-screen image of President George H.W. Bush bantering with reporters as the bodies of U.S. soldiers killed in Panama were arriving home. Caskets were a familiar scene on TV news during Vietnam, bringing into American living rooms the true cost of war. This year, under President Obama, the ban was lifted, but the family of the fallen must approve. The parents of 29-year-old Army Sergeant Dale Griffin of Terre Haute, Indiana, gave their permission for us to see his return today. 5 hours after he left the White House, and still long before sunrise, the president returned. He later reflected on the experience, saying it was a sobering reminder of the sacrifices of America's men and women in uniform.
Burden that both our troops and our families bear in any wartime situation is going to bear on how I see these conflicts. It is something that I think about each and every day.
Okay, so Fox News is a real story because without Fox lying and assisting Trump in his lies and attacks on Americans, well, he wouldn't be in office. A Quinnipiac poll found that people who watch Fox regularly watch nothing else. So that's their fountain of truth, except as we've seen, it's anything but.
Tucker Carlson is facing widespread condemnation.
Trying to rewrite the history of January 6th in front of millions of viewers.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are condemning Carlson for his alternate portrayal of that tragic day.
The footage does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress. Instead, it shows police escorting protesters through the building.
It was a violent insurrection.
Tonight, new revelations about the once private opinions of powerful figures at Fox News who rejected and ridiculed false claims made by then President Trump and his allies about a stolen election, but continued to promote those election lies to their cable news audience.
After allegations that their machines caused thousands of votes in one Michigan county to be switched from Donald Trump to Joe Biden.
But in court filings today and Thursday, internal conversations, texts, and testimony show that some of Fox's biggest names knew the claims were bogus.
Fox News paid out $750 million in a settlement to Dominion voting machines after Dominion alleged that between November 2020 and January 2021, Fox hosts Maria Bartiromo, Tucker Carlson, Lou Dobbs, Sean Hannity, and Jeanine Pirro, along with guests like Trump attorneys Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, all lied about voting machines while hosts and top executives were aware the network was reporting false statements, but continued to do so to retain viewers for big dollars. While it may seem trivial that Fox News would switch around videos showing Trump's disrespect, it's nonetheless really important. They have again been exposed as a state media of a lying, felonious sexual predator.
Trump is a sexual predator.
Fox simply doesn't care. They know the truth about meeting Russians in Trump Tower, about Russia's interference, about the election, about Stormy Daniels, about January 6th, and of course the worst, lying about Epstein and Trump. But in the end, you know that when Trump is dead, Fox will lie again, pretending that none of it happened. But my guess is Americans this time will remember. They'll remember Trump and they'll remember Fox as though they were the same thing, because they are.
I would screw them if I could.
Goddamn right.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
Doing? I want to know what people are actually going to do.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Things happen.
Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny.
But that's just your suggestion. You don't actually have any facts.
You submit. Submit.
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many.
Go fuck yourself.
They know how to get to me.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.